You already know what it is. It's Tier List Tuesday. What's going on with y'all, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day is going phenomenal, but if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. Speaking of such, it is Tier List Tuesday, and today we are going to be talking about the meta post YCS Hartford and other events alike. Now, I know you guys have been screaming for a different tier list. There is the board breaker tier list. There is the side decker tier list. There is so many tier lists that I could be doing. I'm going to go ahead and take priority over this one because the meta has completely changed. That's right, guys. Out are the days of Despia and Sword Soul completely dominating the format, and in are some new strategies that can compete with the top dogs. As of right now, it seems fairly open until we get the newest set. Of course, big dog, we will be going over so many other tier lists. I'll be sure to get to those tier lists in the future, and I want you guys to let me know down below in the comment section, were there any strategies that I list? Do you agree with some of my placements and why? And do you disagree? This format, as of current, has been defined by a few cards. Can you play around the dimensional barrier? Is Mystic Mind going to end you? And of course, we are going to be able to use that as a criteria for our tier list, as well as other stipulations. As you guys should already know, I have 5 different categories here. Meta Changer are the strategies that define the format. There are actually cards that I would like to say that define the format, the cards that I mentioned before, Dimensional Barrier and Mystic Mind, and that is what we're going to be having to play around in defining this tier list. From there are Tier 1. These are the strategies that are not necessarily worse than the Meta Changer, but they don't define the meta. Tier 2 are very solid strategies that you can take to almost any event, and if you are skilled enough, you can 100% top. Rogue aren't necessarily bad decks at all, but you are going against the grain when you play some of these strategies, and some of these strategies just have really good matchups against some of the best decks, but not necessarily against the others. And then, of course, there's everybody's favorite, oh no, what are you doing, baby? These are the strategies that if you are playing, you are giving your opponent the win. But to be honest with you guys, I don't think there is a single strategy that will be in that category just yet. ABC Therion got 1 top at YCS Hartford and is beginning tops here and there. I would have to say that if I were to put ABC at a particular spot, I think that it is a very solid tier 2 deck. What this deck does have going for it over some other strategies inside of the format is that it's almost unaffected by Dimensional Barrier. Flipping that card up and declaring Fusion does prevent you from summoning ABC Dragon Buster, but the ABC strategy is built on using those parts to be able to link summon and to go into other cards. You also do have your Spell Trap and Monster Effect negations through Therion King Regulus, as well as the Wandering Griffin Rider. That should help you stave off Mystic Mind, as well as being a deck that can play Mystic Mind. I'm kind of hesitant because I kind of want to put it to tier 1 because ABC is one of the best Therion strategies, but I think a solid tier 2 is right where it's at. The Invoke strategy, guys, unfortunately, I gotta move my boys down the road. Look, Dimensional Barrier is not this deck's best friend. Having a Dimensional Barrier flipped up against you, especially since players are now playing it in the main board, it becomes extremely hard for even the top deck in Despia to be able to navigate that. Invoked isn't going to do that much better. Now, granted, you could play Invoked inside of a strategy like Wind Witch, so you can start synchro summoning, or you can even just play Links inside of your Invoke deck, or if you're playing it inside of Outlet, you'll do good. But I think right now with players main boarding Dimensional Barrier and easily being able to break your board with Mystic Mind, I don't think that you're going to be discarding spell cards with Mechaba all of the time, and that is your only disruption. I think Invoke's in a very weird spot. Now, you do have the ability to be able to super polymerize your opponent's board, turning your Invoker into a million other different fusion monsters, which is really good, and has some great matchups against some of the other decks. But I think because of those cards, as well as cards like Anti-Spell Fragrance, we might want to shy away from Alistair in Invoke decks. On the flip side, guys, I really want to put this as tier 1. I mean, like, this deck sneakily keeps topping events. It keeps winning events. It keeps doing this, and that. but it's another one of those decks where I think it's one of those borderline tier 1, tier 2 decks. If I actually had to put something, let's go ahead and do this, guys. We're going to move this down to Rogue. Since there are no, oh no, what are you doing babies here, we're going to say this is tier 2. We are going to say this is tier, oops, I don't know why I deleted tier 1.5. And I think that's actually a little more accurate since there isn't an oh no, what are you doing baby here. But I will talk about some strategies that are a little less oh no, what are you doing baby is, as opposed to just saying a strategy is outright bad. I think every single one of these strategies are really good and the correct player can take it to the next level. So moving forward, I do think that this deck is ridiculously good. Not only can it play Mystic Mine, it can get rid of its Mystic Mine. It's extremely cheap. It makes a monster that is extremely hard to get rid of. And of course, it can make Access Code Talker attack multiple times and being able to ruin your opponent's day. DDD is another very, very, very solid tier 2 deck. DDD is so amazing because, again, you can't dimensional barrier it, but what you can do is Mystic Mine it. Now, it does have disruptions, being able to play DDD Headhunt to still be able to snatch your opponent's card, but it's a very, very solid overall strong tier 2 deck that's very hard to hand trap because it can keep playing and can still play a lot of hand traps itself to be able to stop the opponent. Despia, guys. Despia, I still have to put in Meta Changer and allow me to explain why. Because of Despia, players are playing Mystic Mine and players are playing Dimensional Barrier. Now, does that warp a format? Yes, it 100% does. That genuinely is the definition of Meta Changer. And even though Despia did not show up in the top 32 bracket, not securing the most, which I think should be expected for a deck like Despia, it still did get second place. Don't sleep on Despia, as it has been topping events here and there. It's been winning events here and there. It's still one of the most powerful strategies, even without getting that first place victory. Dinos are a very, very solid tier 2 deck. See, it's actually coming up, guys. Rogue in tier 2 is actually coming up. And the reason why is because Sword Soul is one of the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! It relies on tokens. Players are still playing tokens inside of their deck with the Adventure token. That means that Dinos can still take full advantage of Lost World, making their deck a lot more consistent. And Ultimate Conductor Tyranno make this a going second board breaking deck, and Dinos can definitely compete inside of the meta. I feel that Dinomorphia is, I kind of want to put it tier 2, but there's still this being able to summon a Despian Queritus and completely ruin your day. This is the worst deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! When it comes to going into time, guys. Why? Because your opponent will, or the judge will call time, and you'll be like at 69 life points, and you're like, so I need to win now or we're not playing Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Regardless, Dinomorphia is an incredibly powerful deck, and I still have to give shouts out to Dinomorphia Rexsturm. This card negates all of your opponent's monsters that have life points lower than, or I'm sorry, is it as long as your life points are lower than your opponent's, it negates all of your opponent's monsters that are lower than its attack, and then it can turn all of your opponent's monsters to 69 attack. If I'm getting that right, go ahead and say I got it right. If I got it wrong, go ahead and correct me down in the comment section. But yeah, this deck is still ridiculous. I think it's a great trap-based rogue anti-meta like strategy. I'm sorry, zombies. We had you here. Unfortunately, not only is it no tops that puts zombie into the rogue status, I think the combination of how the format is headed kind of does shove zombies a little bit down the way. There are going to be some other strategies that are in tier 1.5 and tier 1 that are almost unaffected by Zombie World. And then on top of that, I think players just aren't necessarily playing Zombie World enough. This is a really good strategy, and I really want to see it get on the board. But after no top, after no top, after no top, no shows whatsoever, I can't keep saying that this deck is at the tier 1.5 or tier 2 status. I got to bring it down to Rogue, though I do think it is still extremely powerful. And the best thing about it is that not only did it get ultra consistency with the new cards from Dimension Force, Zombie World can still completely wreck certain decks, while not every deck. Super Polymerization is also a card that allows you to break boards, and with Zombie World on the field, everything is a super poly target. Drytron, guys, are our first tier 1 deck. Easy peasy, guys. Big reason, not a lot of people are maining Droll and Lockbird right now. And I've already said, a Morph Factor pain is the pain of everyone's existence. Being able to negate synchros, fusions, exceeds immediately off its presence. It's a walking dimensional barrier. Come on, guys. There's also the Vanity's Ruler, which prevents your opponent from special summoning, but allows you to special summon. Drytron is like a really cool Link deck that plays ritual cards because they gain advantage. But other than that, Natasha allows you to steal your opponent's monsters and gain some advantage. I got to put Eldritch, even though I think Drytron and Eldritch had the same number of tops, I'm going to put Eldritch at 1.5. The biggest reason why I'm putting Eldritch at 1.5 is strictly because players are not maining back row removal, and that's the reason why Mystic Mind was so powerful. Eldritch only had 2 tops inside of a format where players are not maining, or for a lot of parts, not even sideboarding back row removal. That's actually a huge red flag. That is huge for me. Though Eldritch is still a really powerful deck, especially when you do combine it with the branded engine, since the deck does not need its normal summon, being able to normal summon Albaz, fuse off your opponent's cards by discarding an Eldritch trap card from your hand, which can get your engine going, but also being able to use those branded cards to be able to fuse off your opponent's board since you don't need an extra deck, and make some really good boards itself with a Mirror Jada's Disruption. Once this deck does get going, it's extremely hard to stop. Heroes, guys, where exactly would I put heroes? Now, I'm going to go ahead and put them in Rogue because, again, Dimensional Barrier and Anti-Spell Fragrance immediately are not cards that, as a hero player, you don't want to see. The good thing about Floodgate cards with heroes, as long as they're not Mystic Mind, is that Elemental Hero Stratos, which is now easier to summon because of a hero lives, can destroy those Floodgate cards. I don't know. Some of you guys just search with Stratos. You're a real player if you destroy and spell and trap cards with Stratos. The hero strategy, I still personally feel, is a great going second deck at being able to just wipe your board, your opponent's board, and OTK. And going first, it's one of the only decks that can make Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer now. So, like, he is kind of good still, guys. Seriously consider heroes. I think it's a really good rogue deck. And even though these decks are in rogue, they're still extremely powerful. Moving on, Shaddolls, I'm going to go ahead and put to Rogue. Dimensional Barrier is not a nice card for this particular deck. Flipping up a D barrier against Shaddolls kind of reminds me why Shaddolls got pushed out of the format in 2017 in the first place. Oh man, this deck is ultra reliant on fusion, kind of like how Branded Despia is. But the difference is that Branded Despia does have cards like Branded in Red to be able to play on your opponent's turn and facilitate advantage throughout the process. This deck does have El Shaddai Fusion, but it don't get you free cards and then free summons and then free searches and free disruptions. It just kind of gets you a window, and that's what we doing. Fluendareese easily still one of the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! I kind of want to put it in the meta changer status. It does just float away Mystic Mind. You can actually use your Fluendareese continuous spell card to tribute off your opponent's Mystic Mind. Does not care about Dimensional Barrier. Players haven't figured out the spice to beat Fluendareese, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in meta changer, because even when players start to mainboard Droll and Lockbird, that D-Shifter just is a big middle finger to cards like Droll and Lockbird, but the spice definitely takes care of Fluendareese. Grid Module, 100% a rogue deck, guys. Can't wait for Pot of Desires to come to 3 so this deck can see its full potential. I think that this deck is best served as a going second. Try to break your opponent's board in OTK maybe, but Dimensional Barrier could like really mess up some of these other strategies. Unfortunately, not all, which is why I put this at rogue. Unchained, guys. I think Unchained is actually like really good at tier 2, like genuinely good at tier 2. Shout out to my boy Distant Coder for winning the 3v3 with this deck. And reason why is because it doesn't care about Dimensional Barrier. It doesn't care about Anti-Spell. A lot of cards in the game it just does not care about. It link summons with your opponent's cards. Your Unchained Anguish allows you to link off your opponent's cards. That's the Link 3. And so does the Link 2, allowing you to clear the way for boards. But more importantly, you can play a lot of those great going second board disruptor cards. Evenly matched is really powerful in the format. You can even main board Dimensional Barrier and catch a lot of players off guard. This deck is actually spicy. Agents went from tier 2. Oh, because this deck is so reliant on the synchro summon, like, yes, it can link summon, but it's really reliant on that synchro summon, but it also can summon ARCHLORD KRISTYA. I think I'm gonna go ahead and make a bold take. This deck actually did top a few events over the course, and say that it's a very solid tier 2 deck. Even when it is shut out, Master Flare Hyperion shut out by Dimensional Barrier inside of the main board, it still can summon ARCHLORD KRISTYA, which is a card that nobody wants to deal with. Pendulum, guys, solid tier 2 deck. The problem with Pendulum still persists. I think that Pendulum's biggest problem is that you need a master pilot to be able to play this deck, just to be able to make boards that some of the other strategies like ABC can make with a little more ease. It can actually make the Artifact Scythe, so that's pretty cool, but so could activating Artifact Sanctum at this point in time. Plunder Patrol is another solid tier 2 deck. The meta is still consisting of light and dark monsters. That means Plunder Patrol lists can be able to freely negate cards, and Plunder Patrol more can be able to freely banish cards on the field. This is easily one of the better strategies, underlooked strategies, and I genuinely think being able to use cards like Magician Souls to draw into your cards is amazing. And the fact that you can Link Summon, Exceed Summon, Fusion Summon, which can help you dodge Dimensional Barrier, is amazing. Predaplants, I feel, are another solid tier 2 deck. This is a Predaplant Despia deck that has been going around. I know Pac played it and almost got top 32 with it. There were a lot of almost top 32s, and this showed up a lot from what we were seeing. Ultimately, the difference between Predaplant and the Despia is its ability to recover a little differently. Also, being able to search your fusion cards through Darlington Cobra is pretty cool. This deck actually can still use pendulum effects if you get debarriered and make some really cool plays. So yeah, Predaplant, I have to say, is a very solid tier 2. The Punk strategy, guys. Punks are tier 1 right now. Punks are tier 1, and you get so many options for it. You get the ability to be able to see your opponent's cards by using the Zombie Vampire, and then you can build your board accordingly. If you are going against a deck like Despia, then of course you go right into your Scythe slot, guys. It's that simple. If you're going against a deck like Fluunderease, then of course you're going to want as many negates as possible. I love that this deck actually can see what your opponent's playing regardless of the circumstance and then build a board from there. In my opinion, it's probably the best, very best pure combo deck in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. It actually might be a meta changer, but I'm going to keep it right here. Dragon Link, very solid tier 2 deck. Albaz didn't do exactly what we thought it would do. Players aren't even playing the Albalanatus, so this deck is still really good. But the problem with this is that players have not noticed that, you know, they're not playing Albalanatus. You can actually play Rocket Dragon Link, guys, almost free right now. So this could actually be higher to here or here, strictly because Chaotic Ruler, just for the same thing that it does for Punks, being able to add hand traps, it can do the exact same thing for Rocket Dragon Link, allowing you to get those important cards to your hand to gain that additional disruption for your opponent. Salamangreats, unfortunately, don't have an application in this current meta. I do think that Dimensional Barrier not affecting them or Anti-Spell Fragrance not affecting them is great. It can also play around Mystic Mind easily with a Salamangreat Rage. That's also amazing, but the problem with Salamangreat is that it feels uberly power crept. You need multiple card iterations to be able to build your board, where branded decks have like Branded in red, and Fluunderease has Robina. Like literally one card builds their entire board, where Salamangreat doesn't have that one card. Gazelle is limited. Sky Striker, guys, man, we had it at tier 1. Maybe this might be in a big take, an overtake. This may be a bold take. But I still think that Sky Strikers is a meta changer deck. Or I think that Sky Strikers is a meta changer deck. Being able to perfectly use Mystic Mind, which should have outs. Players should start playing outs to Mystic Mind. But the fact that Sky Striker just is amazing at going second and dismantling boards, is still going first and being able to set up those floodgate-like cards. Almost no matter where we're going to go inside of this format, Sky Striker will still have its impact at being able to play those floodgate cards and then do Sky Striker things. Sunvalon, oh man, I thought this deck was tier 1, guys. We had our bold take. Unfortunately, a no-show at Hartford. But, I mean, man, I'm gonna... Is this Hopium? I still have the utmost respect for this deck, but yeah. So the problem with Sunvalon is that if you don't immediately open Adventure Engine, you can't have that disrupt before combo. You can't, which is unfortunate. Whereas ABC has Regulus and the other card, the Adventure Token Engine before combo. This deck doesn't necessarily do. And one other thing that I've noticed about Sunvalon is that, yes, it has a 1-card combo, but it doesn't really have a lot of oomph afterwards. Fortunately enough, plants continue to get support. So it is going to be a very supported archetype in the near future, and it's probably going to be able to get that status as tier 1.5 and potentially 1. As you guys know, Sword Soul is easily a meta changer deck, guys. You got to watch out for Sword Soul. It has amazing, like, just instant cards that allow you to break some of the best cards in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. Vashuda allows you to get over so many outs against all of the top strategies in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. And then, of course, this is a deck that if you don't open optimally, it can OTK you at the drop of the dime. It's not even funny. Now, Phantom Knight. I'm actually really curious on where I would put Phantom Knight post-meta, because it has some interesting interactions. The first is that it is an XE deck, which does get hit by Dimensional Bear, but it's also a Link deck, so you got to watch out for that. It can play the Artifact Scythe engine, which is really, really good against some of the decks in Yu-Gi-Oh right now, preventing them from playing. I think that it's mediocre against this deck, Actually, this deck doesn't care, but it's good against Despy. It's good against Sword Soul. It's good against Punk. Not so good. Pretty decent. Pretty good. You know, it has its things. Ultimately, I'm going to put... I'm gonna put it at Rogue right now, and I want you Phantom Knight players to prove me wrong, and I actually think I will be wrong fairly soon. You have searchable monster negates through Fogblade and the ability to be able to play the Artifact Scythe Lock. But if you decide not to play the Artifact Scythe Lock, which you definitely don't have to do, I think that this deck grinds forever, and that's something that is genuinely underrated in Yu-Gi-Oh! This is probably sneakily a tier 1.5 deck, but I'm going to go ahead and hold my tongue. That Pot of Desires to 2 helped a ton. It helped a ton. And this is a Synchro deck and an XE deck. You can't de-barrier this deck. I'm actually going to go ahead and say a bold take. This is a tier 1.5 deck. You can't de-barrier it. It can out the Mystic Mine easily with Virtual Royal Gate Chuche. It doesn't have a terrible matchup against any of these decks. It's fairly good, and there's multiple ways you can play it. Adventurer, Punk, Pure. This is a solid tier 1.5, and that's my bold take, guys. If you guys have a bold take, go ahead and let us know down below in the comment section. Where would be your bold take? Where would you put some of these strategies? In Tri-Brigade, as much as you guys think that this deck is good or dead, it's a solid, very, very solid tier 2 deck. It can still make Mirror Jade. I don't know if you guys knew that. I'm probably going to let Patreon, put that on Patreon so everybody can see that there. Because for some reason you guys don't like deck profiles and stuff like that, which is fine by me. But yeah, this deck is still really, really good, especially for its price point. A very, very good deck. Very fun deck to play. And the best thing about it is that it's a Link deck, so it doesn't care about a lot of those situations. And that is all that I have for the meta tier list today. I really hope you enjoyed watching this. Let me know down below in the comment section, where do you think I messed up at? Did I put some decks too high? Did I put some decks too low? Of course, I want you to let me know what you think, as well as what tier list would you like to see next week. And I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Check out these videos for more amazing KaliEffect content. This video for Master Duel Kali, as I'll catch you on the next one.